welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeroen. Good evening, everybody. Hello.
It's a while ago we spoke with each other, and a lot has happened since then, and not all is for the good. We see a lot of news about Israel, and it's very worrying, and it's even more worrying since our Minister Kach, she said Israel is for her an example, and she wants to change the Netherlands into Israel. And I'm sure you can tell us a lot about how nice that would be if he would go in the same direction.
Yeah, well, God forbid if that happens here and the rest of the world. Unfortunately, Israel state is leading a very extreme scenario where the leadership and unfortunately many of the citizens are following a very rush activity towards vaccination in masses. They're talking about that in Israel, there are already out of 9 million people, around 4 million, I think around 4 million people vaccinated. That's officially, that's what they're saying, I think even more than that. Many people, and including myself, we don't trust that this information is correct. And also, the country is acting on a social basis and also on legal basis to push the vaccination and to change the classes between people if you're vaccinated or not, very firm and strongly. And if the campaign for the vaccination was so successful, then it wouldn't make sense that they would push for it so aggressively. So as you see, Jeroen, and as we've seen in previous talks, we are facing a new era in democracy countries, which we were used to base our life on the freedom and the respect of citizens and people to each other. And now there is a big shift, and this is very concerning for all of us.
Yes, it looks like all the countries have the same protocols. You can see what's happening in another country. It's like a look in the future, and you will see it coming here as well. And I told you before we started that even here we see a lot of new legislation which is on the way, which is very shocking. One of them is that they will demand tests to go to school, to go to shops, to go to discotheque, to go to bars, to go to sport, anything. And I think this is how the situation is in Israel at the moment. Another legislation which is on the way is that you're obligated to be tested even by road to come in the Netherlands, but as well you are forced into quarantine. You will be punished if you don't do that. Can you give a sketch of how is daily life in Israel right now?
Well, as I said, it's we had just recently started to get out of fourth lockdown. So the country is going through, I would say, like waves, ups and downs with restrictions. There's still mandatory mask requirement everywhere. That means also on the streets and outside, everywhere you go. And now in workplaces, when this is something that occupies me and my team a lot on a daily basis now, without any new law, without any even new temporary law, no new rules. It's just based on one of the organizations for the industrial companies, ask from a law firm to give them an opinion about the law if they can ask for vaccination or send people to show testing in order that they are not jeopardizing anybody else at work. This is the concept. And they got an opinion, a legal opinion that says it's okay. And this was very vague, if I want to use a nice language and don't say bullshit. So what they've done, it was trying to change verdicts and laws into explaining something which is not. And we a good colleague of mine, Gadi Shilo, and myself as well, we published our own opinions bashing this false information, but it went viral like spreading of a fire in a field. So in every places now, all industries, even law firms, you know, offices, health organization, homes, insurance companies, military companies, they all make their own rules. It's like the Wild West now here, you know, it's in Israel. Some of them, they want only vaccination. Otherwise, you cannot go in. Some of them, they says you can either vaccinate or show that you have been tested in the past 72 hours. Now, they're all playing a game without any new law that they can present to the people that work, the employees, that they are basing it on something. It's always, every time they start with a letter and they're saying, just a moment. Every time it starts with a letter that they're saying to the people, in this and that date. Some of them already started, some of them gave about 2-3 weeks. It's like, reminds me like a request that you cannot refuse if you want to use, you know, like terms from The Godfather, because it's like really very bullying the employees. You know, it's very aggressive to say on this date we are going to start working as before, so you can start working not from home or partially not from home, but you have to show this proof, and this goes against our laws and rules about privacy. And definitely when we're talking about, and let me elaborate just a little bit further on this one, our principle as a society that there are some things that are fundamental to be private. For instance, when we go to vote, right? If you want that the real representation of the will of the people of the country will be represented in parliament, you have to have it on secrecy. Everybody can vote in a closed room, and only the person knows what he chooses and he chooses. And this is what we want as a society, right? This is our interest that we will keep it that way, unless we're trying to be North Korea, right? So that's one thing. In medical treatment, it's the same concept. We want people to accept or reject any medical treatment only because one reason alone, that he wants it for himself without any consequences that might occur if he does or doesn't take the treatment. And now the government, but unfortunately so many workplaces, so many people within the country that are citizens and have equal rights, but also equal obligation. Everybody has equal obligation. The law is the same for everybody in democracy. Nobody is above the law, but they are just ignoring the law, the rules of privacy, those principles that are so rooted and entrenched in our legal system. And it just say, you know, this is like the Wild West. We will do whatever we want to do in our workplace because we have this opinion of some law firm which will never stay in court. And this started about 2 weeks ago. There are already 2 lawsuits in the courts, which I'm not running with my people, but my team and my colleagues that I'm referring so much work that is coming in about this are preparing about more 4 to 6 cases that we're going to take, because we don't need 20 or 30. We just need few of them to change the whole course of how it goes in the country. And we will have also the opinion of the advisor for the government, the legal advisor of the government, in few days, and that will be also crucial to see where we're going from here. But the fact that they're actually talking about it, that they are considering, you know, that people should reveal their private information, that means that people would not take decision anymore based on what they really want. They will take decision based on the consequences of what's going to happen to them. This is an atrocity in my point of view. So I'm sorry I took a little bit elaboration on this one, but it's like, you asked me what's going on in Israel, that's the hottest potato on the table.
No, absolutely, it's shocking. And you see everywhere the same mechanisms. We see the same here, that I made a comparison to fascist law during the years 1938 until 45. and there are it's scary how comparable they are. You can see that they just reason into one direction, and even if they have to go against the law, it doesn't matter. And that's the same as you said about these opinions. We have now an ethical opinion. They ask for ethical opinions to justify what they are doing. This is totally madness. Are there already lawsuits which have been against the government and resulted in a success?
Yeah, there are a few of them. One of the laws, the last laws that the government tried to pull, is that they can transfer information about vaccinated and not vaccinated people between authorities. That like means between city halls and world HMOs, so health maintenance organization. So there was an appeal about it, and the Supreme Court, which finally, after 1 year of this whole thing going on, started to show a little bit signs that they're fed up a little bit with what's going on. They understand that you can fool everyone for some time, but not all the time, and it's enough. So it's the same thing that happened, not the same, not even close to what happened to you with that amazing judge that decided that she will put the foot down and be brave enough to say, I don't mind, I don't care about what they're going to write about me tomorrow on the newspaper. I'm going to do my job. It starts to be a little bit coming on in Israel, and they froze this law. So now they cannot exchange information between authorities. To be accurate, they decided that they're only going to send information about non-vaccinated people. And that's also a problem for them, because every time I see this questionnaire in workplaces, are you vaccinated or not? Are you going to vaccinate it? Only one time, only 2 times, because you have to do twice to be vaccinated, according to Pfizer. So they always ask, have you been vaccinated outside of Israel? So there are ways that you can be vaccinated and they would not know. So they need to gather this information. So vaccinated people are going to be left alone because they already know that on the majority of them, but not vaccinated people would be pursued. At the beginning, what they're saying that the only interest is now to just to call people and persuade them. They don't want to push them. But we know it's not right, and we know that it's already happening on spot. There are also other rules, so I don't want to elaborate more maybe with your questions. But this is one winning. You have to understand, Jeroen, in Israel, they are making all the tests of what's going to happen, and then they will pull it to the rest of the world. It's like here in Holland. There was a time they went with the requirement of masks on the streets in Kalverstraat and Albert Cup Market. They made a test for 2 weeks to see how people reacted. They said, "Oh, people don't want it. We don't need to do it right now. We're just going to let it go." But that was a test, and then a few months later, they came with the mandatory request. So in Israel, they're trying right now something very troubling, and I will end with that. A wristband, a digital wristband. If you come into Israel and you need to be quarantined for 2 weeks, well, it's not enough for the government now that you will declare you're doing it. And they also can track your phone, because people can also deal with, bypass that. So now they want to put a wristband on your wrist. And, when I was studying on law school, and I didn't do so much criminal law myself, but I remember very well that this is an alternative for a custody. If you are suspected to do something bad, illegal, and you should be now under arrest maybe, or on custody in a way, then the judge can say, you know what, I will be easy with you and I'll let you stay at home if you agree to wear the digital wrist. So now, if you just come to Israel and you're a regular person, you are like that criminal suspicious, in that criminal suspicious that you have to wear it. And you know, again, what makes me crazy is that people are just fine with that. This is the problem. It's not the problem. The problem is not with the leadership. It is the problem with them, yeah? But the real problem is the majority that got used to be treated like they're doing something wrong, or they have to reveal something. You know, why do you have to ask people in workplaces? You give them so much responsibility. Why would you ask them to show you something that they're okay and they're not sick? Why don't you trust them on this too? So yeah, I will stop for now with this one.
And how is the public opinion? Is it changing? Because last time we talked, you were very worried because you said they are deep asleep, but a lot has happened since then. For example, like you said, 4 million people have already been vaccinated, injected. Let's keep it.
Yeah.
Are the people waking up? Are they becoming more conscious of the problem?
It seems that people waking up. Just to say, just to finish what I started before, I just say another success is that the government stopped that. Again, the thing is that we have election in 2.5 weeks, so it's 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, that's has a serious effect that the government is letting go a little bit. I think in the Netherlands it's also coming close, and you can see already a little bit more soft approach. So it really depends what's going to be afterwards. I don't know. I think there are so many people that are still asleep, and you can see by numbers of vaccination. I think there is. It's becoming now to a junction in Israel in terms, I think, of where society goes, because people that got vaccinated and went along with this whole romantic belief in the corona and we're going to get out of it very soon, just everybody play their own role and be part of the solution. I think there are many people that start to feel something is not right, but they're too deep in already. They're already injected twice. They already set up very strong mind and opinions. And in Israel, everybody are very opinionated, so they are and they express it. It's very hard to go back. However, you cannot run from the truth for too long. At the end, it's going to catch you. So I see people see that family members are getting injured by these injections. You see that the country is people that are stubborn by like workplaces to push people away and break the law. And it seems that, you know, people start to understand where that is it going to lead. Now you cannot go to the gym without showing proof of vaccination or tests, and these rules are still in place. And this is the first time in my life, and definitely as a lawyer, which is very unlikely, I say this is one of those laws that you should disobey. I don't care Supreme Court or not. We're going to attack it in the Supreme Court, but I think if you are a gym owner, it's a shame for you to be like what I call what used to be in our nation a couple, somebody that works for the regime, for the violent regime. So you should not do that to your brothers and sisters. This is happening in the state of Israel. So I think but it's very unknown yet where it's going to go. But if people don't wake up, it's going to be a clash at some point, because, you know.
Well, the problem is, of course, that the government makes them to couples, because I think it is the same here, that you are responsible for who is coming into your place, and you get heavy fines if you don't comply. Is this the same in Israel?
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah. Then you mentioned already that about the jeopardy which is being done with the vaccinations. Are people getting aware of this?
Yeah, I want to be clear about vaccination. This is very clear for me, at least. There was a strong base of people that really believe in Corona and pandemic, and they got scared, and all this horrifying stories about this and that person. It's always individual, but they just believe in that, and they went to vaccinate themselves so quickly that they were pushing to vaccinate themselves. And that's I think the hard base, the hardcore base of the people that were most influenced by the propaganda of this mainstream media and the regime. However, so the people were standing in line, and they opened places, you know, in hospitals, in many places, that you can just go and get injected and go back and go away. And everybody are waiting for the certificate, what they call the green passport. But there are no more lines for a month now. There are no more lines anymore. So all the people that really, really wanted to vaccinate themselves have done it really quickly. If there are 1 million, 2 million, 3 or 4 or 500,000, I don't know, okay? But there's definitely a large group of people. I think it's definitely should be over 1 million or 2, because if I see what's going on in workplaces, and I see also so many people that are showing this passport, that are happy to show this passport. I don't know what they're happy about it, because, you know, you are happy in showing something that somebody is not treating you right, and is not doesn't trust you as a brother, as you as brother citizen or sister citizen or a human being. So and at some point, this is only valid for half a year. At some point, you have to make the third injection. Our prime minister is talking about to make us a vaccination, you know?
Of course, a vaccination, exactly. And every 6 months, we will have a new mutation of the virus, and you can come back for the next shot.
Yeah.
Then which surprises everybody probably, because the promise always, when you get the vaccination, then you get back your freedom. Of course, we all know that's a big lie. But what we see now in Israel is surprising, that they are going back into lockdown. How do you justify that when half your population is already vaccinated?
There is always a new explanation. Now it's going to be that the kids are not vaccinated, so you have to save them, and they're starting to talk about vaccinating the kids. They also had to throw many injections, you know, to the garbage, because they have a life shelf. So they're trying to find now a new population to pull it on. The justification to do those things is always found. It's always something else, you know. It's always some other group in the community that are responsible that we are not getting out of it, you know. And there's very easy target now to say that people that have not been vaccinated. The thing with the test, by the way, that they're saying in workplaces, you have to show tests. Let's leave aside that it's illegal. Let's leave aside that it's immoral. But these tests are, it's not about the tests. It's not about showing that you're okay. It's about making you suffer and do it again and again until you say, you know what? Oh, come on, I don't care about it. Everybody do it already. Let me just get vaccinated. So people that are really in love with the vaccination or injections, their psychology goes that the other people, they don't have a straight opinion, and we have to respect that somebody have a different opinion. Many of them just think, you know, they're stupid, and we just have to push them to the corner as much as possible, and then at some point they will just give up and vaccinate themselves. They're so stupid they cannot think for themselves. This is how arrogant the situation became, that our people, they don't care about breaking the law. They don't care about breaking the building bricks of democracy, because they don't think that this is this sword can go also against them, and it will at some point.
We live in a factory in a law-free zone. This is what I'm saying at the moment, because this is everywhere. Then I come to the next. This is, you mentioned already these elections, which is of course here also a hot topic. We have seen what happened in the United States. We have also seen in the Netherlands that they have been changing a lot of regulation for the election. Is this the case as well in Israel?
I haven't seen that change in regulations. I was worried that they would say if you cannot show vaccination, you cannot vote. So that will be a full tyranny. No, but I doubted that somebody will raise that such an idea. However, no, it's very close now. I really hope that so many people don't want to vote. That's what I know for sure. But many people say, I don't want to vote. And when they come to me, I'm not a political person, but I come to you and ask me, what do I recommend? I say, vote to anybody you want, but not somebody in the parliament. Vote for somebody new. I don't care if they're good, if they're bad, anything that is not there, because I don't see we have 120, I think you have the same number of parliament people.
Not 50 we have, yes.
You had 150, so we have 120, and none of them is fighting like you, like me, against what is everything that is going on. I mean, the society is changing fast. People are acting different than they did a year ago to each other. People are obedient to rules without any logic behind it, without any reasoning behind it, and you don't see a debate in the parliament. You don't see a serious debate.
This is the same everywhere. We have here only one party is really seriously opposing the government. But is this the same in Israel? Because the Orthodox part of the population, I think they are very against this whole situation, and I think they are also represented in the Knesset, no?
That's true, but that's you're touching now a very, very delicate issue. The Orthodox population, they're not so many, but they can have a strong enough power to decide who's going to be the next prime minister. However, they're also divided to different groups and different parties, but they used to have like 2-3 very strong leaders, normally old people, rabbis that were here for a long time, and they're the leaders of the people. Now they don't have. Some of them died, and the ones that remained alive are not strong as before. And there is also a lot of politics around them, which wasn't the case before. When the leaders of the Orthodox community before were almost never impacted significantly by political. So if they were against something like these treatments like we're dealing right now, they would have been saying it out loud. And now there are some people in charge, some elderly rabbis, they are really old. They are being controlled probably strongly by their what we call the surrounding, the people around of the family, that they're deciding who is going to ask which question, and the population is divided like it was never had been before. So now there are many people from that community that will not vote, because if they don't get the rabbi to say which way to vote, they will never vote differently. But they have this so a strong, I would say, crisis now, that they would just not vote, probably. This is my assumption. However, the leadership is not strong as before. That's 100% sure. This is really in different times than before.
And how is it about initiatives for new parties, political parties? Are there some which are promising?
Yeah, there is one which is, it's funny because the head of this party is a doctor, and he is very much against vaccines altogether. He's a very smart guy. He just wrote a book. It took him about 6 years. He wrote it, he published it in 2019, I think, about cancer. And he condensed and collected information from many doctors in the 20th century. That had been trying to fight cancer in a different way than the regular norm, and they made a lot of success, and the establishment was running after them. So he made like a historical book with also a part of it which is about treatment. So he's very much about be in charge of your own health, take vitamin C and D, and make sure that and zinc, and make sure that you're moving enough, and take care of yourself, and don't rely on hospital, and don't rely on pills anymore too much. And that's why the establishment is running after him, and they just revoked his medical license. But he's aiming to be the Minister of Health. So hopefully he can get in and come back on top of all those people that are after him right now. And he has a party, which I know a few of the people inside, very promising young people that also in health, in justice, in rights, and they are going very loud and clear against vaccination, against mandatory vaccination, and your body, your choice. And this is the only party that really brings a new concept, or actually it's maintaining the standards that we had before, but loud and clear, don't change society and or the way society works. And they hopefully will get in. But again, I am not pushing for any specific one, but if you ask me which is the most promising one definitely based on their slogans, I would say they are the ones. I used to represent this doctor when he has the head of the party, when he had some problems with the media, because the media is running after him, and I try to maintain that he always going to have the ethical option to give a comment to anything bad that they're saying on him all the time. So I was involved a little bit in helping him. I wish they will get in for sure.
Yes, because you mentioned already media. This was my next question as well. First, I want to, are they able to communicate their message? Because the media, do they give attention to him?
No, not at all. And when they do mention him, they're just trying to bash him. So it's like really against this party, and they don't let them speak on the mainstream. But this is amazing, because many people supporting them because they see it's unfair game. And when you look about the people in parliament today, I think in the Netherlands, even without being involved so much here, I think people will feel the same. Because somebody told me that today. She said, it's very easy to know who's lying to you. So that's why many people are coming to this new party, or are walking after me and my views. And I'm surprised to be so encouraged by so many people. When I go out to speak in Israel, I close the Zoom. Even if I have 2 hours, I have 500 people maximum, and they have another 500 or more on the live on Facebook. They're just people who want to get in and they don't have the space. And even if I talk for 2 hours, they stay the whole time. People need to hear truth. People need to hear courage. People need to see, because they see the lie. They see how the politicians are just lying to them. So this a new party with people that are really straightforward are getting a very, I think, strong attention from the public, because they are being ignored by the mass media. So there is an effect here which is interesting.
Well, that's hopeful, because I think, and I'm curious to hear your opinion, the only way we can change it, look, I think this policy which they're enrolling at this moment, it's based, they need the trust of the population, yes, because without trust it will not work. So the question is, with the media we have, do you see any signs that the media is turning a bit? Because we see that a little bit here in the Netherlands. In Germany it's much stronger, I must say. I mean, you have been a lot to Germany lately. You have heard probably that the media there is really changing to the other side. And this is not incidental, this is really structural already. Do you see this kind of developments in Israel as well?
Unfortunately not. I'm surprised about Germany. I'm happily surprised to hear that. I wasn't aware. And in the Netherlands, I don't know so much. I don't see, I think, such a big change. Hopefully it will go on. In Israel, the media mainstream channels are being held by people with a lot of money, and they have interest in the politics. So that was like less than a year ago when the media started to get strongly to support the government. And we know that for years, because whenever we have a war, the media is like regularly criticizing the regime, or the government. But now when there is a war, the media, what we call, they are being recruited because they need to help the country. And that's what they're doing now, fighting this horrible enemy named Corona, right? So they are using all the tactics, but I think they're really using propaganda, and I don't want to even say more than that. How much I think this propaganda resembles some really, really bad times, and there were many important journalists that got fired or left their channels, and they had like high positions, and there are quite a few of them that just left. That was less than a year ago when everything started. So we have seen quite a big group of very apprised journalists just leaving the workplace. They're still, most of them are very quiet, so we don't hear from them. They didn't start their own channels, but they left. So everybody that stays, I don't see that we can rely on them for a big change. Only very few courageous people out there, but they're doing some work, but it's very, very little. I know it because when they have enough courage to ask me to come to talk about something. So there are few of them still in the mainstream media, but that's not the majority, not at all.
Can I ask, do you have the possibility even to travel to Israel at the moment?
Until a few days ago, no. It was like a jail. They closed the country. It was like from the last lockdown. I think it was about four weeks, more or less. But I don't count me on that because I don't know exactly the time. But now they open it, but they open it slowly. So about 3,000 people can get in. And you have to have, because there's so many wants to come back, so many people are stuck out of the country. So you have to go to like a committee, and they have to approve you. And also to go out, you have to have also a permission, which is crazy because to come in, let's say you can justify it, you don't want to have diseases coming in, but somebody want to go out. Why would you stop him from going out? It's insane. It's just insane. I don't have other words to describe it.
It shows the real nature of what's happening. It has nothing to do with the virus. We all know that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, how do you see the future?
Wow. It's a tricky question. I am very optimistic by nature. And I also believe that we are here in this world for a reason. I mean, we are just coming to this reality. We don't, at least we don't remember that we chose to do it. And we are going to go away, probably also out of our choice. So there is a journey here. And I believe this journey has a purpose. And that's why I think the humanity altogether will come out stronger from this. In some ways, people like you and myself and others, we are now expressing our light better than before. I wish I didn't had to do it, but this situation also led us, our work and our study and our capacity to teach other people things that they might have not think about. And that will be hopefully a good thing for future generations. I am looking a lot about what's going to be the day after. I'm sure it's going to end sometime. It can take a half a year or 1 year or 2 years. And I don't care how bad agenda this Bill Gates or his friend has, and they want to vaccinate or inject 7 billion people. They're not going to make it. I'm sure they're not going to make it. And they're going to be off the place and the stage that they're right now. I think we are never going to go back to quiet times. Now it's going to be a big change, one way or another. And when I'm done with you, Jeroen, and with Rainer and Kennedy and Marie Hollande and other great lawyers worldwide, when we are done with them, we will make sure that we will have new norms in place. When I talked about it with Rainer the last time I've been in Germany, universities should be funded only by public and never by people with power. And the same goes with hospitals and some things that the country can never do to you. And that will be for now and forever, hopefully. Like look at Japan. After World War II, they made such strong rules that the government cannot mandate almost anything on an individual, you know, as a society. And how is it that Japan is doing? As far as I know, pretty good. So
Yes.
why would we ever agree? And I'm talking about society now, people. Why would we ever agree? And I think you and people like me are giving hope to many people and say, you know what? It's very easy to say, oh, I'm very small, I can't do too much. No, we have an idea, we have an agenda, we have the truth behind us. Why would we feel small?
Yes, I agree with you totally. I think they underestimate the people. And they are trying to enroll an agenda, but the good thing is many of these things fail. Look at governments, how many times they try to do something, it fails. You know, these people, they are mostly in politics because they are not that successful. So this is my hope. They have power, but they are not successful. Let's see if there's some questions from the audience. Martina, do we have questions?
Well, let me see. There are a lot of concerns, of course. So I'm scrolling through the questions. One of them is, how do you vote in Israel? Do you have to go to a certain office or do you have to sign a letter and send it to them? How does it work?
Okay, so we have the day of election, and this is the only time that we can vote, unless you're outside of the country. That's small people that are in working for the government or for officials. Then they have a different time. But you're voting normally in they take schools and other public places, and they just take few rooms over there. And there are people that can be watching. It's a very democratic mechanism. The only problem that in remote cities or rural areas, villages, so sometimes there can be fake votes because there are not enough people from all the parties to participate and make sure that it's fair and okay. But all in all, it seems to be that it's has to be done in the right way. There should be in the country about, as far as I remember, 15,000 points when you can go and vote according to your location. And that's why I'm also calling many people in Israel right now, please go and volunteer in the day of election to be somebody that is in charge of whoever, and mainly in rural places and remote places. So as more we get precise vote results based on the true will of the people, this is better for everybody.
Okay, and do they count by hand or do they have like machines?
They count by hands.
Okay, clear. Are there any Facebook pages we can join or follow to support the people in Israel who have the same message as we have?
Well, you can follow my page, but I'm not posting too much in English. I also have Facebook. I normally work for my own profile, but because I'm not that professional, but I established also a page which I call support in legal activity. Actually, I learned this idea from you, Jeroen, at the beginning of our connection, because I said I cannot ask from anybody that comes to get help, and I get hundreds of people every day. How much do you have? And then move them to some lawyers to help. So I also, I'm building already, but I already managed to build a small group of lawyers which I call my army, which is the army of love. Seriously, it's we are a group of volunteer lawyers that we are doing everything we can, first of all, to give a support. Second, to try to negotiate if negotiation is possible for any problem that is occurring. And then if that doesn't help, we have 2 stages of warning before action and then taking legal action. So we are active, and I ask for the public to help me, like the same as you. I actually created a fund, and it's working. It's working. It's very interesting to see that I'm not talking about it inside the country almost at all. And some people are pushing it all the time, and I see money is coming in. And then as much as I have, I can take more cases. It's really nice to see. Jeroen, you just said that, the power of the people. Exactly. It's so strong. And this is the spirit of the people. If for some reason I cannot be active anymore, God forbid, or you or somebody else, the spirit is there. There are enough people to push it back. They can never win if they shut me down or shut you down or somebody else. That's why Facebook will never prevail with their attempt. They have to let go at some point and says, you know what? This is another thing for the future, by the way, Jeroen. All these places like on the internet, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they are using, in my point of view, our content. So when they're using our content, we become in some way, we have some ownership of what they're doing, and we have to take that ownership. So, we can restrict them in other ways. We can find other ways to do it, but they cannot shut people's mouths just because they don't like what's going on in the narrative. It's not for them to do. And if they don't keep it, I think also people will leave them. But even without that, legally, we should put them on a spot. Yeah,
absolutely. But our strongest force is just to switch to other platforms, and I think that will come. We have seen that already with WhatsApp. Millions left there and went to Telegram, which at this moment is probably much safer than WhatsApp. But of course, these platforms, they are so big and so prominent, it's very hard to find an alternative, but I'm sure it will develop, like we are developing also alternative media. It will take time, but I'm sure there will be a whole new landscape. Martina, did we have more questions?
Yes, I have a question. I have a message I really would like to tell you. On Facebook, there's someone is telling you, I'm a Muslim, but I would like to say that my thoughts are with Israel and your citizens. So I think that's a nice message to share with you. You mentioned the name of a doctor who has a treatment against cancer and now is going into politics. Could you please mention his or her name?
His name is Dr. Aryeh Avni, but I didn't say he has a treatment for against cancer. He wrote a book collecting many treatments against cancer that had been developed by other doctors, and he was telling the history about those doctors and also the way that they treated people. And he also gives many treatment ways how to deal with all sort of diseases. He has explained to us also that cancer, like any other disease, is the way that the body reacts to a problem. It seems that the medical establishment is doing wrong for a long time, and we need to shake them up. For the short time that we have right now, I don't go to elaborate on that topic. It's a very serious and deep one. But Aryeh Avni and his group is a party called Rapeh, which is like heal. That is the name. It's in Hebrew. And I want to say also about to the guy, the Muslim guy, I think this is the time when we are uniting as human beings. I'm proud, even though it's hard for some of my people to hear it, but I'm proud to work with people from Germany and in the Netherlands and any other places in the world, in the United States as well, to fight against things that are illegal, they are not right, and they are against our fundamental natural rights as human beings. This is us as humans. It doesn't concern to countries. So I'm not cooperating with governments. I'm cooperating with people and courageous people. So I'm happy that everybody that can support, and maybe this is also, Jeroen, something good for the future, that we are uniting. I mean, why wouldn't we like each other with all the differences, different religions, different colors, whatever? We're the same in the core.
It's very inspiring how at the moment we are connecting with everywhere in the world with the people who have the same ideas about democracy and about human rights, which have been neglected for too long.
Exactly.
There's Ines wants to ask a question, Martina. Ines.
Yes, yeah, one thing, Ines, before I unmute you, Tamir, you really touched my heart, what you just said, and I feel exactly the same. So thank you for this wonderful, wonderful message. It's actually an honor to unite with so many people around the world, and that's actually an honor. So thank you very much for your speech about that. Ines, please, you can ask your question.
Okay, fine. Well, great to hear from you. I was just wondering, what kind of lawsuits do you mainly conduct? Is it against the state or against companies?
Yeah.
Are it individual matters or class actions?
Yeah, I'm more in the individual, and I'm dealing with broad cases. So normally it's on human rights issues or citizen rights, and I'm finding myself helping even without before the corona, fighting against medical tyranny. So many times the hospitals and institutes, they want to push other vaccinations or other treatments, normally on kids. And that's what I'm calling a medical tyranny. So that's my main activity. And now it's more broad because I'm dealing against workplaces, and I also was involved in this important appeal to the Supreme Court against the masks mandatory requirement. But on my core of my activity started and still goes on, unfortunately, against medical institutions, medical doctors that are they're just playing God. And if the parent doesn't want to take a specific treatment or vaccination, there are many times lying to the social workers, and it goes to courts. And unfortunately, the courts also play a role here. There is a combination of parties, of clerks working together. Don't think deep enough. Don't understand that parents, normal parents that are not drugged or drunk or whatever, they're just regular parents, they have even the right to make mistake. And normally they will not make a mistake because their son is more important to them than any one of these in that chain, the doctors, the social workers, or even the judge. And I find myself many times pushing back hospitals and other institutes to stop running after them just because they said, I don't want this treatment. And they think that they have the power, because they know what's best, and they don't have statistics behind them. And in 100% of the cases, and I'm emphasizing it, 100% of the cases, I was never wrong. There was not one child that got injured or died or infected by what they were fearing that will happen if they don't vaccinate him. And then when we manage to push it back, nothing happens. And it's time after time after time. And I always say, when is going to be the last time they will learn? They will say, you know what? I went to the court so many times, and at the end of the day, when it didn't happen, all my fears were just proved to be wrong. I'm not going to do it anymore. But we are facing an ideology. And you know why I'm saying this? I'm giving you this long answer, because there is a message here. There's a hidden message here. Whatever we see now with the corona, with this whole pandemic, didn't start in 2020. It starts way, way before that, when we allow this establishment and these people in power to treat regular human citizens as doing wrong and are neglecting their children. And that's because we let it happen. This beast got too big right now. And of course, there is some big names behind it. I'm not talking about the regular doctors. There are many good ones. I'm just saying the establishment is very sick, and this is the time they went too far, and we're going to fix it for now and for all. Now I have more power than I ever had before. And when I was working as an underdog until 2020, I was saying to myself, when will come the time that my voice will be the right voice, the strong voice in town, and not the other way around.
Great, Tamir. I think this is very hopeful, and maybe we needed this escalation to get everything back to normal, because as you said, and I saw the same thing, the last 10, 20 years, things have grown very, very, very wrong, and this is the fruits we pick right now. So Tamir, the time is almost up, I think. Do you have a last question maybe, or?
No. I really would like to end the Zoom, because the message from Tamir is so strong that I would like to keep that spirit inside me, and many people feel the same. I see in the chat everywhere. So let's just finish here, Tamir. I would like to see you back ASAP. Just with an inspirational speech for an hour or so.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have you with us, Tamir, and we hope to see you soon back. And of course, we will talk very soon about new court cases and strategies. Thank you for being with us, Tamir.
Thanks. Thank you very
much. Dan zijn we alweer aan het einde. Martina, dus dankjewel ook.
Graag gedaan. Maurice, kan je hem uit de live,